into this story here about Fani Willis, and I'm telling you guys, like, now would be a good time to grab some popcorn because we are going to crack up. Okay. Are you guys ready to laugh? Let's get ready to laugh. All right. Quick rundown first. So the Fani Willis misconduct hearing, it's underway this week. Let's back up a little bit and remind you how this all began. So Fani Willis is the DA that decided to indict Trump for attempting to influence the Georgia election officials. Okay. So now we fast forward to the hearing that is actually about Fani, and this one is not about Donald Trump. And this hearing is about misconduct on her part and a conflict of interest. There are two things we're going to discuss here tonight. One of them is going to be the relationship with Fani Willis actually had with Nathan Wade. Now, he apparently was hired in 2021. And he was hired to lead the prosecution. So Fani Willis hired Nathan Wade to lead the prosecution in 2021. Now, some of you may wonder, what's the big deal about that? Well, there was a relationship between the two, and we're going to get into some of that tonight. You'll see that Fani Willis was not honest about when that relationship started. So that's going to be proven. And number two, we're talking about mismanagement of funds as well, considering there were actual business funds that were used for vacation. So there's a lot happening here. Now, if you're wondering, what does that have to do with this case in Georgia? I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to show that she's not credible. And so if she's not credible, then that says, well, she should be removed from the case, which is actually what they're calling for, that she should be removed. I don't know what the Democrats were really thinking about either, because the way that I see this, they should have known better. They really should have. And when we talk about two things could be true at the same time, this is another example, because yes, it's true that Fani Willis has misconduct in reference to this particular case. Yes. And you're going to see that tonight. But it could also be true that the evidence that was found against Donald Trump in reference to the Georgia election could also be plausible. So that's the thing, folks. So don't think about this in reference of partisan politics. So if you're pro-Trump or you're pro-Biden, just put that to the side for a second and just look at the facts that actually are presented. So let's go ahead and start with this clip here from News Nation. This is when it was first announced that Fani Willis was accused of hiring a romantic partner. We'll start with this.
Bombshell claims unearthed by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution alleging an improper romantic relationship between members of the legal team working to prosecute President Donald Trump in Georgia. Now, according to this newspaper, a former Trump staffer charged in the alleged efforts to interfere with the 2020 election accuses Fulton County DA Fani Willis of hiring a romantic partner of hers to prosecute President Trump. The paper says private attorney Nathan Wade has been paid more than $650,000 by Fulton County, and he allegedly used some of that money to take lavish vacations with DA Willis. A spokesperson for the DA said her office will respond through appropriate court filings. The article reads, quote, this: the document offers no concrete proof of the romantic ties between Willis and Wade, but says sources close to both the special prosecutor and the district attorney have confirmed they had an ongoing personal relationship.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the actual hearings. And this is the part that was pretty humorous for me. I was laughing when I was watching this. We're going to start with the relationship. So let's start with that category first, and then we'll make our way to the mismanagement of funds. The relationship. Here's the problem, folks. Fani Willis says that she actually did not have a romantic relationship with Nathan Wade until 2022. So 2022. However, her friend or former friend and former coworker says differently. Listen to what she had to say on the stand.
2019.
Could possibly.
Okay. And when we spoke, you said it was shortly after the municipal court conference, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you know that their relationship, their personal relationship, began shortly after this municipal court conference.
Yes.
And when I say personal, romantic. I just want to make sure we don't get in an argument over what personal and romantic is later. When I ask you personal, do you take that to mean romantic?
Yes.
Okay. And do you understand it that their relationship began in 2019 and continued until the last time you spoke with her?
Yes.
Okay. So according to her former friend, now this is someone she actually went to college with too. So it wasn't just like this was a coworker and then they became friends. This was someone that she has known for years. She actually lived with her at one point. We'll get into that as well. But according to her friend here, Robin is saying that the relationship started in 2019, which means that Fani Willis lied when she said she started dating him in 2022, which also means that she was in a romantic relationship with him before he was hired as a lead prosecutor on this case. So that's one lie. Let's continue a little bit more.
And you were essentially her best friend during this time, right?
Not best friend, good friend.
Good friend. Okay, close friend. And so would you frequently socialize with her?
Yes.
And you saw her at work every day?
Yes.
So you had a chance to see them interact together on a personal level?
Yes.
And so from everything that you saw, heard, witnessed, it's your understanding that they were in a romantic relationship beginning in 2019?
Yes.
There it is again.
And when you left the DA, oh, I'm sorry, let me ask you, you said that Ms. Willis came to live with you in April of 2021. I'm sorry, April 1st, 2020 or 2021?
She didn't live. I never lived with her.
Okay, I'm sorry. She took over your lease in April 1st, 2020, correct?
No, 2021.
Okay, I had it both ways, so I'm glad you clarified. So when she took.
Also, I noticed too, the lawyer who is speaking right now, you can't see her, but she's the one she has blonde hair. You can't see her right now, but she seemed kind of nervous herself.
Took over your lease in April 1st, 2021. It's your understanding she moved out of the house that she was sharing with her father and started staying at the condo?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that that's because she needed to have her own space?
Yes.
Away from her father?
Yes.
Okay. When you left the DA's office, was it, were you fired?
No, I resigned.
You resigned, okay. Just one moment, Judge.
Okay. So that's what you really need to hear from the friend, which confirms that the relationship actually began in 2019, not 2022, which is what Fani said. And then we're going to get to this part here. I think I fast forwarded a little bit here. Did I? I think I did. Oh, sorry, guys. You guys don't need to see all this. Oh, yeah. Okay, this part right here, when she gets into a little bit more detail about how the relationship began. Listen to this.
And so you're, without going into all the painstaking details, there is no doubt in your mind that from 2019 until 2022, Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade were in a romantic relationship.
What's the question?
You have no doubt that their romantic relationship was in effect from 2019 until the last time you spoke with her?
No doubt.
Okay.
She said no doubt in her mind that the relationship began 2019.
And that's based on your personal observations and speaking with them and seeing them together and things like that.
Yes.
Okay. No other questions. Thank you. The other folks may have some questions for you, Mr. Yurdi.
Sit down.
You want me to go to the
Now, one thing I want to mention, because I'm not sure where she is located, but for whatever reason, she could not be present in person. So this looks like a Zoom or something, or maybe a webinar that they're using here. So one thing to keep in mind is sometimes when you are a part of like a webinar, there can be a slight delay in the response. If you're not, the people in the courtroom, they can ask you a question. There may be a slight delay on your end, whereas you think you're responding right away, but on the other end for the people who are in the courtroom, there may be a slight delay. So one thing to keep in mind there. Now, we're going to go to Fani. Remember what she said now. Remember what she said. So Fani came in hot. And I got to admit, it was not a good week for Fani. The other day was not good for Fani. She came in hot. She came in mad. Let's dive in here.
Isn't it true that you met Mr. Wade in October 2019 at the judges conference?
He hasn't gotten to the point where Ms. Willis should be treated also in this situation.
I think we have.
I very much want to be here, so I'm not a hostile witness. I very much want to be here.
Not so much that you're hostile, Ms. Willis, it'd be an adverse witness. Your interests are opposed to Ms. Merchant's.
Ms. Merchant's interests are contrary to democracy, Your Honor, not to mine.
All right, let's proceed.
We
can keep things moving. Ms. Merchant, next question, please.
Okay, so we've confirmed when you met. After that, isn't it true?
No, I need to explain this, and I think I get to explain my answers. When I met him, Judge Reeves introduced us. He handed me his business card. I'm unsure if I handed him my business card, but we exchanged information. He said, if you ever need any help, give me a call. And he walked to the parking lot.
Okay, so word to the wise, guys, and I'm surprised she didn't know this because she is an attorney, but it's always best, especially not just if you're in a courtroom, but also if you ever get interrogated by the cops. Everybody take notes. Everyone take notes. If you ever get interrogated by the police, especially if they take you in one of those rooms by yourself, I haven't had to go through this, but my dad broke this down for me and told me how to handle this. And you're by yourself, never offer more information than what they are asking you. So at this point in time, did the lawyer ask her all of that information? No, she didn't. She didn't ask you who introduced you to the person. She didn't ask you about no business, none of that stuff. That was extra information that really was not needed on Fani's part. You see, sometimes if you give away too much information, it actually makes you look a little bit more guilty, or they can turn around and use that against you later on. So in my opinion, I felt like she offered too much information.
So after that, you started dating shortly thereafter, correct?
A lie. That's one of your lies.
Okay. Do you know Robin Yurdy?
I know her as Robin Bryant. I knew her. So Robin did not go to my college. She went to the college of, I went to Howard University. She went to Morgan State.
Once again, you guys notice what she's doing it again. So Robin is her friend. The video that we just showed, the woman that was just speaking prior to this, that's her friend, Robin, right? So again, do you know Robin? That's the question. That's it. You can say yes, or you can say no. You don't have to say, yes, we knew each other in college, but we didn't go to the same college. I went to such and such, and she actually went there. Nobody need all that. Ain't nobody asked you all that. That's too much information. Too much.
I met her through some people I knew. In college, we hung out a bit. Not much because she was in Baltimore and I was in Washington, D.C. But we hung out a bit. After college, I lost contact with her. I probably didn't see Robin again until maybe 7 or 8 years ago. A chance meeting here in Atlanta. But we did not have a consistent relationship from when I left college and came to Emory Law School here in Atlanta. But 8 to 10 years ago, just by happenstance, I ran into her. So she was in Atlanta.
You have been friends with Robin for 30-something years.
Did you hear my answer, madam?
Yes, and I'm asking if you've been friends with her for 30-something years.
Now, to that point, if Fani didn't offer up all that information that she just did about the college and the different colleges, and I ran into her later on and all that, nobody asked all those questions. It was just one thing. Are you familiar with Robin such and such? Yes, I am. That's it. That's it. But because she gave all that extra information, Now then the other attorney can say to her, oh, so you've been friends with her for 30 years. You see, and then this gets all bundled up.
I've known her for 30 something years. We certainly hung out and partied together in college. She was from the DC area. She would come home, we'd party together. Wasn't close, but she was certainly in the girlfriends that partied together.
None of this information is needed. You don't need to tell her that you partied with this person. You needed to tell her what area she was from. None of this information is needed. Oh my God. Have you guys ever watched Law and Order? Anybody watch one episode of Law and Order? Any type of law show? Anybody? What do we all learn? What do we all know? What do we all learn? So something I've noticed, and a friend of mine told me about this. Sometimes people who are attorneys are not actually good when they're the one that's on the stand. It's like they're really good at interrogating people. They're really good at being a lawyer. But when it's the other way around and the roles are reversed and they're the one that's in the hot seat, they don't tend to do so well sometimes.
And then, like I said, I ran into her about 10 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia. So we didn't talk throughout that time period. I didn't see her. I didn't even know where she was. When I ran into her, I was surprised she was in Atlanta. And so, yes, I have known her probably since 1990, 1991, but we have not maintained a consistent relationship that whole time.
For the last 10 years or 5, whatever you'd like to classify it as, have you been friends with her?
I have not spoken to Robin in over a year. I certainly do not consider her a friend now. I think that she, you know, there's a saying, no good deed goes unpunished. And I think that she betrayed our friendship.
So let's narrow it.
That's a lot of information for a yes or no question.
Down the timeline now. So my questions are going to be from the time period of 2019 until she no longer was employed for you, the last time you all talked. So all of my next questions are just focused on that time frame, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Up until she left your office.
Yes, ma'am.
During 2019, you all were friends, correct?
Yes, we knew each other in 2019.
During 2020, you all were friends, correct?
We were friends during that time period.
During 2021, you all were friends, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And such good friends that when you needed a place to stay, you asked her if you could take over her lease.
That's a lie.
You did not move into her apartment?
I did, but that's not the way you characterize it. Is wrong.
I asked if you could take over her lease.
I did not ask if I could take over her lease.
Did you move into her apartment?
I moved into her condo in April of 21. The circumstances around that were that Robin.
Pause. Here we go. So again, yes or no question. Did you move in? I moved in around April such and such. The circumstances are, nobody asked that. Ain't nobody asked you why you moved in there. No one, I don't understand this. And she's the DA? Okay.
Met her husband. They wanted to move into another and separate place. She wanted to get rid of her condo. My father was living with me at the house. Because of this case and because of my stance on gangs, my life was being threatened regularly. My father urged me to leave our home. At the same time, as luck would have it, Robin wanted to give up her lease because she wanted to move in with this new man she met, who eventually became her husband. And so, as life circumstances worked, my dad was begging me to leave the house. He was afraid for me, afraid for his grandchildren. She wanted someone to take over her lease so that she didn't, have to pay a fee or get abandoned. And so, I don't remember when, but probably March or April of 21, I moved in and take over her lease.
And did you pay her or did you pay the leasing agent?
I don't even know who the leasing agent was. I paid her.
You paid her. Did you pay her cash or did you use a card?
There were some times that I would give her cash, but mostly I paid her via Cash App. That would be the most convenient thing. So
Pause. Everybody remember this statement here. So I don't know if everyone got this far in the conversation, but this piece right here about how she paid her, this is going to be important when we get into the mismanagement of funds. Listen to this.
My life was being threatened regularly. My father urged me to leave our home. At the same time, as luck would have it, Robin wanted to give up her lease because she wanted to move in with this new man she met, who eventually became her husband. And so as life circumstances worked, my dad was begging me to leave the house. He was afraid for me, afraid for his grandchildren. She wanted someone to take over her lease so that she did.
Let me pause here. For those who don't know, when she talks about like her grandfather, or excuse me, her father was afraid, I guess, for like his safety and the grandchildren's safety and stuff like that. Apparently, Fani Willis has also, from what I understand, prosecuted gang members. Apparently, one of them being Young Thug, who has, been very bold about the fact and said that, no, I am not a part of a gang. But I think that's the most recent one that I read about was Young Thug. And so, yes, thank you, Danny. YSL gang. Yes, thank you. And so that's another thing. So apparently she's kind of known for that, for prosecuting gang members or who she believes to be a gang member. And so that's where the fear for the safety comes in that discussion.
Have to pay a fee or get abandoned. And so I don't remember when, but probably March or April of 21, I move in and take over her lease.
And did you pay her or did you pay the leasing agent?
No, I don't even know who the leasing agent was. I paid her.
You paid her. Did you pay her cash or did you use a card?
There were some times that I would give her cash, but mostly I paid her via Cash App. That would be the most convenient thing. So I would not only give her rent, but then like when the utilities would come in, whatever the utility was, she might be like, I need $70, I need $100, whatever it was. And we never had a problem with money. Whatever she told me it was, I never asked to see a bill. I never questioned her. I just gave it to her.
Did you hear what she said about Cash App? Okay. Because you see, when I watched this, that just sent off a little light bulb for me. And you're going to see why. Sometimes she paid her in cash, she said. Sometimes she paid her via Cash App. And rent, depending on where you live, probably going to be what, like a couple $100,000, probably $1,000 at least. It would be more easier, more convenient to pay via Cash App or something like that, right? Okay. All right. So first of all, let me show you. You done messed up when MSNBC can't defend you, right? Hold on to the Cash App. Listen to this. MSNBC, they can't even defend her. Listen to this.
It's so legalistic centric and yet so important and fascinating.
Right. Don't let the legalese fool you. This is epic. This is monumental. If things are going in the direction we think, Fani Willis lied to the court, it's game over for her. She will be disqualified. If they had a relationship prior to when they represented to the court, it's a huge deal. I can't overstate it.
And do you feel the same way, Charles, based on the testimony of what we just heard? And we just learned Nathan Wade, who is the special prosecutor in this case, walked in the courtroom. He is being sworn in to testify now about this issue and his relationship with Fani Willis. Let's listen.
It's
okay. So even MSNBC is saying, like, if these dates line up according to what her friend said, that the relationship started before he was hired, they said it's not going to be good for Fani Willis, obviously, right? So I found her friend to be more credible than her. And then there's Nathan Wade. Now, Nathan, you've been cracking me up, okay? Nathan has been cracking me up. Let's hear what Nathan Wade has to say about this romantic relationship that he had with Fani Willis. And we'll get into the business card being used for vacations as well. Let's go ahead and dive into this here.
Now, as of May the 30th, may I answer the question that okay, thank you, Your Honor. As of May the 30th, 2023, you had sexual relations with Miss Willis, isn't that correct?
The interrogatory, sir, asks during the course of the marriage and the period of separation.
Excuse me.
My response,
Your Honor, I would ask that the court direct the witness to answer my question, yes or no. As of May the 30th, 2023, had you had sexual relations with Miss Willis? Yes,
Mr. Gillen, let's start with at the higher level whether he believes he answered it truthfully, and then we can drill down into why or why not he doesn't, and maybe we'll end up exactly where you left us.
Well, but again, Your Honor, the point of it is that the words matter, and that we have to establish what did and did not happen, and then he can give whatever explanation he chooses to what apparently is a false answer. But I would like an answer to my question.
And you may get one. I would like us to start at the high level before we drill down into specifics to see whether he actually contradicted that interrogatory, if I'm making sense.
Well, the interrogatory is relatively direct and explicit. Sexual relationships with a person other than your spouse during the course of the marriage, including the period of separation. That's pretty simple.
Sure. Let's see if that's something you can get him to admit.
You did have sexual relationships with someone other than your spouse during the course of the marriage and during the period of separation, which included up to May the 30th, 2023. Isn't that correct, sir?
My answer to this interrogatory is none. Is no.
So you're saying.
So everybody remember that, because I'm telling you, this hearing is all over the place.
That you did not have sexual relationships with anyone outside of your marriage, and the period of separation is during the period, then you're answering the question to this interrogatory, correct, sir?
I'm saying during the course of my marriage, I did not have sexual relations to anyone, and this answer is no.
Well, again, Your Honor,
I understand. You can proceed, Mr. Gill.
We need a yes or no. Let's just get down to it. Did you or did you not, by May the 30th, 2023, have had sexual relations with Miss Willis, yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
So someone explain that to me. Like, why is it that he had to actually say Fani's name for Nathan to say yes? He said no twice before he finally said yes.
Now, what you did is you answered no to that question, didn't you, or none, correct?
I didn't answer no to the question you just asked. I answered no to the interrogatory question.
And the interrogatory stands that you answered as a pleading in a civil proceeding, your divorce case, right?
Yes.
Now, excuse me. The next interrogatory, let's move there. That interrogatory states as follows: identify any and all occasions in which you entertain a member of the opposite sex other than your spouse who is not related to you by blood or marriage. You see that?
I do.
Now, there are two parts to this. The second part is, I read on, or in which a member of the opposite sex other than your spouse, not related to you by blood or marriage, entertained you. And then it goes on to say, including but not limited to dining, drinking, in restaurants, bars, pubs, hotels. You see that, correct?
I do.
Now, as of May the 30th, 2023, when you filed this interrogatory, you had in fact entertained Miss Willis on many occasions, had you not?
Again, during the course of the marriage was irretrievably broken in 2015. Well, the answer's still no.
Let's read what the interrogatory says about the time period required to answer the interrogatory. Because what it says is, it goes on to say, including but not limited to dining and or drinking at any restaurants, bars, pubs, hotels, or persons' homes from the date of marriage to the present. You understand what the word present means?
I do.
And present means the filing on May the 30th, 2023. Isn't that right?
It is.
So as of May the 30th, 2023, you have done a lot, or you had done a lot of entertaining of Miss Willis, had you not?
I had done some, yes.
And in fact, under your testimony, you would have said that she had also entertained you. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And so your answer to this interrogatory is false, is it not, sir?
No, it's not false.
Well, hate to dance around the... the answer is yes, you did entertain Miss Willis, correct? Right?
Yes.
She's not your spouse at that time or any time, correct?
That's correct.
She's not related to you by blood or marriage, correct?
That's correct.
But you entertained her, right?
Yes.
And during the course from your marriage, the period of time up to the present. So the answer would have been, yes, I did entertain somebody.
Yeah, so that took a while to get that out, right? So obviously, yes, he did have relations with Fani Willis, but there was a funny response from Fani in reference to what Nathan Wade told her. I thought you guys get a kick out of this. Listen to this.
And did the forthcoming indictment have anything to do with that? Or was it just a coincidence?
Mr. Let's go on and have the conversation.
I'm just asking you whether or not it was a coincidence.
Had absolutely nothing to do with this. It's interesting that we're here about this money. Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich.
I'm sorry. It's funny. It's funny. And some people were asking too, they were like, why was the judge not, intervening throughout this? Because there's some other moments too where I felt like in a typical courtroom, like the judge wouldn't have put up with like the back and forth that was happening between like Fani Willis and, the other attorney. But some people were asking like, why didn't the judge intervene here? And some of these examples that you guys see, it felt like obviously someone would have said order in the court or something like that. But no, the judge was just chilling. The judge was just chilling.
We would have brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why I would give him his money back. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
Is there anything else you would like to add to that?
No.
Sure.
But I'm sure we'll talk about it further.
No, we're not going to talk about it further.
All right, no back and forth. Let's stay down. Next question.
Now he comes in. No back and forth. No back and forth, right? Okay. Now we're going to get into the money piece because this actually is really important. So apparently Nathan Wade on the stand says that, yes, he used his business card to pay for vacations for the both of them, and she would reimburse him. But listen to how she would reimburse him. Like, this was really interesting. We're going to get into this part from him, and then we have other clips as well in reference to the money situation, which I believe this is actually the more important situation, not so much about the relationship and entertaining, just say, did you have sex with this person? Were you in a romantic relationship with this person? What's this entertaining? It's really interesting.
Let me say this. Let's take the Belize trip, for example, since you started there. That was a birthday gift to me, so I paid nothing for that trip. Zero.
Okay. So the charges that are on your card, she gave you cash for?
Okay, so hold on. He's talking about the trip that he took to Belize.
Let me say this. Let's take the Belize trip, for example, since you started there. That was a birthday gift to me, so I paid nothing for that trip. Zero.
Okay. So the charges that are on your card, she gave you cash for?
She did.
Okay. So all of the charges...
Excuse me, Your Honor, I believe the witness had finished answering the question.
Oh, did you have more?
I did.
Okay.
I wanted to get into the charges on the card because traveling with her is a task. You can probably imagine the tension that happens. So for safety reasons, she would limit her transactions. I mean, imagine trying to walk through an airport or sit at a restaurant or do anything. So there's no attempt to conceal. It's a credit card. Everything is here. So.
And that's not what I asked.
Okay.
What I asked was the charges for Belize in March 2023 on that credit card. Those are things you purchased to go with Miss Willis to Belize.
Those are things that we booked with my card that she paid. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So here's the problem. using a company card, using the business card to book personal trips for yourself, regardless if she reimbursed him for that afterwards. That's not the point. A business card is used for business expenses, not for your private vacations that you take. You're supposed to use your own credit cards for that type of thing. You're not supposed to use a company card for personal items. So the way that he just kind of spoke about this as if this was no big deal, that in itself is a problem. That's a problem. Okay, so that's the first one. Now, we'll move on to this piece here where he dives in a little bit more about how she was reimbursing him for these trips. And you guys let me know whether or not you think he's telling the truth here. And I think we have a poll too. Eric, I forgot to tell you, I think we have a poll.
The March the 18th, 2023, to state the obvious, is before May the 30th, 2023. Will you agree with me on that?
I do.
Okay. So then you tell us that Miss Willis paid you in cash all the money for the entire trip. It was a gift for you for your birthday, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure you probably have the deposit slips where you took the cash and deposited the cash into your account, don't you?
I did not deposit the cash in my account.
You don't have a single solitary deposit slip to corroborate or support any of your allegations that you were paid by Mrs. Willis in cash, do you?
No, sir.
No.
Pause. That's pretty interesting. If you pay for a trip, right? You got to pay for the accommodations, the hotel. They went to Belize, so airfare, all of that jazz. Those are the things you have to pay for up front. So I'm just going to guess, just going to assume with the flights and the hotels, I'm going to estimate, depending on how many days were there, let's just say roughly $1,000. So she reimburses him, let's say roughly again, $1,000 in cash. So you mean to tell me he's saying he didn't deposit the cash? Because if you deposit it, there would be a receipt to show that cash was deposited. He didn't deposit the cash. So you mean to tell me he walked around with that much money all the time? The entire time while he was in Belize, he just had $1,000 on him, whether he kept it in the hotel room or not. Does this sound a little bit odd to you guys? And then also remember what she said about paying rent to her friend. She said, sometimes I would pay her in cash, but then I would also use Cash App because it was more convenient. Cash App has a paper trail. Venmo has a paper trail. PayPal has a paper trail. And obviously, if you wire money to someone from your bank account, that also has a paper trail. Cash has no paper trail, boo. Don't you guys find that to be just a little bit too convenient? It just seems a little weird to me. Let's go on.
Not a single solitary one.
Not a one.
Now, when Miss Willis would pay you in cash, would you scamper down to the ATM with her and as she drew money out of her account to pay you these thousands of dollars?
Mr. Gillen might scamper, but there's been no evidence that Mr. Wade does. I object to the phrasing, the argumentative nature of the question.
All right. On that issue, overruled.
Did you and Miss Wade scamper down to the ATM machine and have her dry out? For example, on the Belize trip, just on your payment would have been $2,794.
Miss Wade.
For clarity, yeah, thank you.
Pardon
me? Miss Wade and I didn't go to Belize.
No, excuse me, Miss Willis. I'm sorry. Did you go down to the ATM with Miss Willis while she drew out $2,794 to pay you in cash? That you did you go to the ATM with her?
No, sir. She didn't go to the ATM. She carried the cash.
Oh, and so she would give you the cash. Did you have a little place in your house where you just stack up all this cash that you apparently got to repay you for these benefits that you bestowed on her?
Well, Mr. Gillen, if I answered that, I'm putting myself in jeopardy. If I tell the world that I have cash someplace in my home, don't you think that could be problematic?
No, I don't.
Pause here for a second. So you guys believe, so she walked around with over $2,700 in cash in Atlanta? Because he said she didn't go to Belize with him. $2,700 in cash? I don't even have cash. If I went through my purse right now, there's no cash. I always said this before. If someone mugged me, they're going to be disappointed. Ain't no cash in there, boo. You might find lipstick. But ain't no cash in there. But walked around with that much money? Now, I'm not saying he has to tell them where he keeps cash in his home. I totally understand that. I'm not saying he does, but I find it very strange. She had no problem paying for her friend's rent using Cash App. But when it came to her reimbursing these trips that he paid for with his business card, which is already in the wrong, she would only use cash. Why is that?
And I want an answer as to whether or not you have a little cash hoard in your house where you have allegedly taken the money that you got from Mrs. Willis and went and put it somewhere. Where'd you put it?
No, sir.
Now, just put it on the hip and kind of walk around money?
Did I put it on my hip
yeah, just walking around money where you would spend cash yourself?
Let me finish. Did I put it on my hip in Belize and walk around with it?
When you got paid back, would you take the money, the cash that she gave you, and would you just carry it around with you for spending money around town?
So we have to break down each trip because, for example, for the cruise, she paid me the money before we took the cruise. So I was here and I could put the money in my pocket or put it away wherever I wanted to do with it. Other trips, she would give me the money there. So at that point, I could either spend it or put it in my pocket or put it in the hotel safe.
So Fani was a little sugar mama. That's what it sounded. I think it sounded like to me that Fani was a little sugar mama. Fani giving him money for these trips and stuff. Because remember, he paid for it with his business card, but then she would reimburse him with cash. Or sometimes, like he said, she would pay ahead of time. So it sounds like Nathan had himself a little sugar mama. That's what it sounded like to me.
There's no special place that you would have all this cash that you would be getting from her that you've told us about to pay back for the benefits that you have bestowed on her?
The only special place that cash would have gone would have been to one of my children.
Okay. Now, are you aware, have you discussed these pleadings with Miss Willis?
No, sir.
So there's been no discussion between you and Miss Willis about the allegation concerning the benefits that you have bestowed on her. Is that correct?
The phrasing, the benefits bestowed upon, I don't believe that's an accurate reflection of the testimony, and I don't think that's appropriate.
I think overruled. You can answer the question.
Okay. When you said proceedings, are you talking about the divorce proceedings? Because we were talking about the interrogatories. To that question, the answer is no. If you're go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead with your.
Okay, and then it gets into that part that we've already played there about the about him finally admitting that yes, he did have relations with her. Now, this is Fani's dad. So dad shows up into the room to answer also about the cash. All right. So listen to what dad says.
When your daughter moved or left the house that she owned, did she say anything to you about having a large savings of cash?
Oh, no, see, maybe, excuse me, and Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist, okay? But it's a black thing, okay? I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash or they keep cash. And I trained, you always keep some cash because I've been places and just.
Let me pause here for a second. For my white viewers that are watching, I don't keep no cash. So don't come looking for me. Don't come looking for me. I don't keep no cash. I wouldn't even say that's just something that black people do per se. I do find that older people tend to do that. Like people from my dad's generation, my dad's a boomer. He'll tell you he's a boomer. And also people from my grandparents' generation, the silent generation, I do find that they're more likely to keep cash somewhere. Whereas like I'm a millennial, like I said, the only time I use cash is when I go to like a restaurant or I go to a store and it's cash only. And we do have some of those here in Massachusetts, but they'll usually have an ATM in the store and then I can just, get the cash out and then do my thing. But it's interesting because Eddie Murphy said that James Brown told him to bury your money in the ground. True story. Look it up. Eddie Murphy said this was right after he was starting to become, big star. Eddie Murphy said that James Brown told him, son, bury your money in the ground. And I guess that's so all the government agencies can't come for all your money. But let me let him continue.
Because of the color of my skin. For example, I took a fellowship at Harvard when my daughter was just, if I might, Your Honor, when I was just, she was just, maybe 3 years old. And I remember going to a restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I had a American Express credit card and maybe a Visa or whatever. And I had a lot of what they call traveler's checks. I don't even know if they still have traveler's checks, but traveler's checks. And there was a sign said, with the credit card, for whatever reasons, the man would not take my American Express credit card. So I pulled out my Visa card, and he wouldn't take my Visa card. So then I pulled out my traveler's checks. He said, we don't take checks. Now, these were traveler's checks. This was money. I had a $10 bill. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And he said, the bill for my wife at the time, Fani's mother, Fani, and myself was like $9.95, and I had a $10 bill. That was all that. And I always remember that. But even before that, I've always kept cash, and I've told my daughter, you keep 6 months worth of cash always. For example, I had 3 safes in my house. I put some of my clients' stuff there too.
I wouldn't be telling people this. Like, I really would not tell people what I got in my house. I wouldn't tell people, especially would not tell people I got 3 safes in my house. I would not reveal this information. That's a little too much. I would not.
Things I didn't want other lawyers to be, because you're always in a firm, and I knew that there were special conditions. So some of my clients' things I would bring home, put them in the safe. But I've always kept safes. And as a matter of fact, I gave my daughter her first cash box and told her always keep some cash.
So, yeah, again, I felt like that was too much information. Now, here's another part that I think people do need to point out as well. There's another revealing moment. This is directly from Fani. Again, her offering a little too much information. And I think you're going to find out another issue about her mismanaging funds. Listen to this part.
But I always have cash at the house. That has been, I don't know, all my life. If you're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go. So I keep cash in my house, and I don't keep cash as good in my purse like I used to. I don't go on many dates, but when you go on a date, you should have cash in your pocket.
Again, I would not tell people where the cash is located. I'm sorry, but you know how many people watch this? I would not tell people where the money is located.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from if it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible. I've had cash for years in my house. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. It's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today as I would normally have, but I'm building back up now. So you just put money in. It's a very good practice. I would advise it to all women.
So you can't identify when you came into this cash or where the cash came from?
I didn't say I couldn't identify it. No, nobody gives me anything. I am sure that the source of the money is always the work, sweat, and tears of me. What you asked me for is, when did the money go in there? What I am trying to tell you is, so I got divorced in 2005 from my husband. No, it's important. You said, where did the money come from? And I need to tell you where the money came from. And so for many
we're going to know, you know what, by the time this hearing is completely done, we're going to know more about Fani than I think we wanted to know. And this basically turned into a segment of Days of Our Lives.
Years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house at cash at all times.
Again, I would not tell people this. Not at all. I wouldn't tell people that I had $15,000 like in my house or whatever. And it's just interesting what she said too. On her worst day, she had 500 or 1,000. Like, see, that's her worst, right? So for a lot of people that I know, they never have like $500 just lying around. So just think about that for a second.
And my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house at cash. At all times, there's going to be cash in my house or wherever I'm laying my head.
The money that you paid Mr. Wade, the cash, in October of 2022, you do not know where that money came from.
I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears.
You know which job it came from. Did it come from Fulton County or did it come from a private job?
It came from, what are you talking about? So it could have come from a private job because before I was DA, I was in private practice. So I earned money during that time period. That's probably in there. It could have.
Wait a minute. Let me make sure I got this right. Hold on. Because I think I missed the really part that's important where she told on herself. Yeah, I did miss that part. Sorry, guys. We have to go back.
Have cash at the house. That has been, I don't know, all my life. If you're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go. So I keep cash in my house, and I don't keep cash as good in my purse like I used to. I don't go on many dates, but when you go on a date, you should have cash in your pocket.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from? If it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible. I've had cash for years in my house. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. It's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like
that right there. There it is. There it is. There it is. I hope you guys heard that right here. I told you I missed it. Listen to this. Guess where some of the money came from? Listen.
It's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that.
So here's Fani Willis telling you that when the money that she got from her first campaign, she kept some of that. What? Oh my God. So she is admitting that she kept some of her campaign funds. You can't do that. What is happening here? Someone said this to me and I was like, why? Oh my God. Now, if you were wondering about the mood, this is also the funny part, because in the very beginning, when she came in, the mood was something to be questioned. This is the part I think a lot of people
last name is Willis. Ms. Willis, how did you know to come into the courtroom right then?
There were people, I was pacing in my office.
Okay.
And I heard someone yell, "His testimony is done." It only made sense to me that I would be your next witness. And I've been very anxious to have this conversation with you today. So I ran to the courtroom.
So as soon as you heard that Mr. Wade was done testifying, that's when you just assumed you would be the next witness?
It only makes sense.
Did you listen to any of the testimony?
I've been in my office pacing, ma'am.
Okay. Did you listen to any of the arguments?
I did hear the arguments this morning. It's ridiculous to me that you lied on Monday, and yet here we still are. And I did listen to that argument.
All right, so that was it, just the argument, no testimony.
Right, I listened to the argument this morning where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday. And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued, but since it did, here I am.
Great. So let's talk about.
So that was something that some people pointed out, was to how she came in there. The mood, she was in a mood. Fani was in a mood when she came in there. And what I want people to understand and think about as well is, like, again, two things can be true at the same time, because obviously it can be true that she lied about when her relationship started with Nathan Wade. It can also be true that there's been some mismanagement of funds here, obviously, as Nathan has pointed out, using business cards for personal vacations, etc. Now, it can also be true on the other side that the evidence that was found about Donald Trump in reference to the Georgia election for 2024 is credible. The problem is that with all of this information that's coming out about Fani Willis and the way that she has conducted her business and the lies that have been told, it makes her appear to be non-credible. So if she appears to be non-credible, then it makes people take a pause in reference to the case that is brought against Donald Trump in reference to Georgia, which could be locked tight in reference to the evidence. What should be done is Fani Willis, in my opinion, I think should be removed from this particular case. They'll put in someone else. I would assume they would have a backup, right? I would assume. But they can put in someone else. But I think the thing is like, this is just headed for a disaster. And so now, because of all the information that's come out about her and her having bad practices, now it takes the attention away from the case, the Georgia election case that is brought against Donald Trump. So two things can be true at the same time. That's how you got to look at it. Eric, whenever you're ready to pull up the poll results, let me know. In the meantime, guys, if you haven't had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash that like button. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe and share. And I'm going to go ahead to some of the comments. I told you guys to get popcorn for that because I was like, this is something else. Justin said, yes, just because Fani may get disqualified doesn't mean Trump shouldn't be prosecuted anymore. That's the point. Thank you, Snork. Any pictures of ties hung from doorknob of office? Oh, Snorky. Snork's trying to ask if something was happening in the office. DG says somebody's Fani was getting slapped. I'll try not to look at some of the comments because you guys are cracking me up. Marvin says prosecutor Sabby's second career. Oh, no, 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 no. Thank you, Sparky. Not only tell the police only what they ask, don't tell them anything except that you need a lawyer, even if you're not a suspect. There you go. Liz says, why is Georgia using this silly language entertaining? I don't know. That's a good question. Did you entertain another woman? What do you mean? Thank you, Cool Blue. Fani and Nate, believable as my dog ate my homework. Thank you for the super chat, New York Varsity. Wade was stuck between perjury today or paying for a divorce tomorrow. You can't make this up. No, you can't. And thank you for this as well. So Matt Taibbi got a visit from the IRS, but not these clowns. Thank you, Cool Blue. Fani's 15K where singles were used for wallpaper. Like, I would not reveal that information to people. And thank you, Jamal. I like how she don't need no man, but will launder PAC money real quick. Stop. All right, there was a poll question about this. Let's go ahead and bring it up. Do you believe should Fani Willis remain on the Trump Georgia case? 15% said yes, 63% said no, and 21% said I am not sure. Interesting. That is over 1,081 votes. All right. Thank you guys so much for that.